You're listening to GradPro Book, where we go beyond the summary and deep into the critique. Introduction: Decoding the ship that crossed the ocean of dreams. Few works in contemporary literature have had as magical a journey as Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. Quietly born in Brazil in 1988, the book initially sold only a few hundred copies before being dropped by its publisher. Yet, much like the journey of the shepherd boy Santiago himself, the work did not give up on its personal legend. By an inexplicable inner strength, it crossed the borders of Brazil, conquered Europe, gained fame in America, and ultimately became one of the most translated and best-selling books in human history. The Alchemist is not a complex novel with a multi-layered plot or a vast cast of characters. It is a fable, a simple parable that contains profound philosophies about dreams, destiny, and the human journey. Its influence lies not in high literary value, but in its ability to touch upon a universal longing, a question that each of us has asked ourselves: why was I born, and how can I fulfill that mission? However, every phenomenon has two sides. Alongside the millions of readers who consider The Alchemist a bedside companion, an endless source of inspiration, there are also numerous critics and discerning readers who find its philosophy too naive, unrealistic, and even dangerous. They argue that Santiago's story is an excessive romanticization of success, ignoring the harsh barriers of society and the randomness of fate. So, what is The Alchemist truly? A map leading to the treasure of the soul, or a sweet but illusory sedative? This critique will delve into analyzing the two opposing aspects of the work. Part 1 will explore the elements that have created the book's global, moving power, explaining why it resonates so strongly. Part 2 will turn the tables, offering a critical perspective, pointing out the weaknesses, the simplifications, and the potentially misleading messages in Coelho's philosophy. Only by examining the work from both sides can we truly appreciate the complex legacy and true value of The Alchemist. Part 1: The Power of Simplicity, the elements that create an inspirational masterpiece. The extraordinary success of The Alchemist does not stem from complexity in writing technique or a grandiose plot. On the contrary, it comes from the power of simplicity. Paulo Coelho has woven a parabolic tapestry with the most basic philosophical threads, creating a work capable of transcending all cultural barriers and touching the hearts of readers worldwide. 1. The language of parable, the gateway to universal philosophy. The first core element that creates the appeal of The Alchemist is Coelho's choice of the parable narrative form. Instead of writing a dry self-help book or an abstract philosophical treatise, he told a story. The journey of the shepherd boy Santiago from the fields of Andalusia to the Egyptian desert has the feel of fairy tales, of timeless legends. This style offers many superior advantages. First, it makes complex philosophical ideas accessible. Concepts like personal legend, soul of the world, or language of the world can be difficult to grasp if presented academically. But when woven into a character's specific journey, they become vivid and tangible. Personal legend is no longer an abstract concept. It is the treasure awaiting Santiago at the pyramids. Omens are not mere theory. They are two fluttering butterflies, the two stones Urim and Thummim, the two hawks battling in the sky. This concretization helps readers, regardless of their educational level, to grasp and reflect on the profound messages. Second, Coelho's prose is clear, minimalist, and poetic. He uses short sentences, concise dialogues, and symbolic imagery. The writing does not get bogged down in detailed descriptions, but focuses on evoking emotion and contemplation. The desert in The Alchemist is not just a geographical space, it is a living entity, a harsh but wise teacher. The sheep are not just livestock. They are symbols of a content, safe life devoid of dreams. The minimalism in language allows the reader's imagination to soar, each person filling the gaps with their own experiences and feelings. This creates a deep interaction between the work and the reader, turning the act of reading into a personal journey of discovery. Finally, the parable genre gives the story a universal, timeless quality. Santiago's story is not limited by a specific time or place. It could happen anywhere, at any time, and the protagonist could be anyone. The shepherd boy is merely a representative figure for all who are searching for the meaning of life. It is this universality that allows The Alchemist to be easily embraced by different cultures, from west to east, because it speaks to a common theme of humanity, the journey of seeking and fulfilling a dream. 2. Personal legend, a celebration of the individual dream. The philosophical heart of The Alchemist lies in the concept of the personal legend. This is the book's most powerful and moving idea. Coelho defines the personal legend as what you have always wanted to accomplish. Everyone, when they are young, knows what their personal legend is. It is not a mere job or a material goal, but a deep calling from the soul, a personal mission that each person is born to fulfill. The appeal of this concept is that it legitimizes and honors the most private dreams of each individual. In a society that often judges people by external standards like status, money, and degrees, the idea of a personal legend asserts that the most important thing is one's own path, the pursuit of one's passion. It gives readers permission to dream, to believe that their aspirations are valid and important. Coelho doesn't just stop at the definition. He builds an entire philosophical system around the pursuit of the personal legend. The most prominent is the now iconic phrase, "When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it." This statement offers an incredibly optimistic and powerful message of hope. It suggests that our journey is not solitary, that a greater force is watching over and supporting us. Whether understood in a spiritual sense, the help of God, the universe, or a psychological one, the power of focus and the law of attraction, this message serves to soothe fears and strengthen faith. It transforms the pursuit of a dream from a lonely struggle into an adventure accompanied by the entire universe. Furthermore, Coelho is realistic in pointing out the 4 main obstacles on the path to realizing one's personal legend. 1. The belief that the dream is impossible. 2. Love, the fear of hurting loved ones. 3. The fear of failure. And 4. The fear of success. By naming and analyzing these psychological barriers, he helps readers identify and confront their own inner demons. He does not promise an easy path, but acknowledges that there will be challenges and failures. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. This acknowledgement makes his philosophy more balanced and credible. 3. The hero's journey. An inspiring structure. The plot of The Alchemist follows a classic structure in mythology and literature. The hero's journey, popularized by mythologist Joseph Campbell. This structure includes familiar stages. The hero receives the call to adventure, the dream of treasure, refuses the call, hesitation, meets the mentor, King Melchizedek, crosses the first threshold, sells his sheep and goes to Africa, faces a series of trials and allies, being robbed, working at the crystal shop, meeting the alchemist and Fatima, approaches the final challenge, confronting the desert and soldiers, achieves the reward, learning the treasure's location, and finally returns with enlightenment. Using such a familiar and powerful structure gives the story a natural and psychologically satisfying flow. Readers can easily journey with Santiago, feeling his progress. Every challenge he overcomes, every lesson he learns marks a step in his growth. More importantly, this structure turns Santiago's story into a template that readers can apply to their own lives. Each person's life is also a hero's journey, with its own calls, trials, mentors, and treasures. By following Santiago, readers are encouraged to reflect on their own lives, identify which stage they are in, what desert they need to cross, and what their true treasure is. One of the most subtle yet profound messages of this journey is that the real treasure lies not just at the destination, but on the path itself. Santiago learned the language of the world, understood the soul of the world, found love, and most importantly, understood himself. Even if he hadn't found gold and silver, he had become much richer than when he started. The twist at the end, when the physical treasure is found right where he began, reinforces this lesson. The journey away is necessary for us to recognize the value of what we already had. 4. Redemptive optimism, a necessary message for an age of cynicism. The Alchemist is a book steeped in optimism. In a modern world often shrouded in cynicism, nihilism, and anxiety, Coelho's message is like a breath of fresh air. The book affirms that life has meaning, that dreams have value, Alchemist, and that each individual plays a central role in the history of the world. The idea of maktub, it is written, is not a passive acceptance of fate, but a belief that everything happens for a reason and is part of a larger plan. This belief helps people face adversity with greater serenity, seeking lessons in every difficulty instead of sinking into resentment. The book teaches the power of the present. The camel driver tells Santiago, "Because I don't live in my past or my future. I'm interested only in the present. If you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy man." This is a valuable reminder, encouraging us to live fully in each moment, because life is the moment we're living right now. In conclusion, Part 1 shows that The Alchemist succeeds because it meets the deep human needs for meaning, hope, and connection. By using a simple parable, celebrating the individual dream, and conveying an optimistic message, Paulo Coelho has created a work with the power to heal and inspire. A reminder that the greatest journey is the one that follows the call of the heart. You're listening to GradPro Book, where we go beyond the summary and deep into the critique. Part 2. Between Inspiration and Illusion: The Limitations and Controversial Points. In the previous part, we understood the foundational elements that made The Alchemist a global sensation: its revolutionary parabolic narrative, its powerful simplification of complex ideas, and its profound impact on the reader's mindset. In this part, we will shift our focus from celebration to critical examination, delving into the very aspects of the book that have drawn controversy and skepticism. Could it be that behind the empowering philosophy lies a series of practical gaps and understated dangers? Let us now turn our attention to this critical perspective. If Part 1 was a symphony celebrating the inspirational power of the alchemist, Part 2 is a necessary bass note, a critical analysis for a comprehensive view. While the book's appeal is undeniable, the very simplicity that makes it successful is also where its greatest limitations lie. A work of such profound influence must be carefully examined for its potentially misleading messages and hidden risks. 1. The naivety of the universe conspires philosophy. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. This is the core mantra of the book, a message full of hope. However, under the lens of harsh reality, this philosophy reveals its naivety and potential danger. First, it ignores systemic and structural barriers in society. The world is not a level playing field. A person born into poverty, lacking educational opportunities, facing racial or gender discrimination, starts from a completely different position than someone with privilege. To suggest that a strong enough desire can overcome all obstacles is a denial of the reality of social inequality. It can inadvertently blame the victims of circumstance, suggesting they failed simply because they didn't want it enough, rather than acknowledging the objective factors that hindered them. Second, this philosophy risks promoting magical thinking, a passive belief that simply sitting and sending signals to the universe is enough. It downplays the importance of other decisive factors, such as hard work, smart strategy, professional skills, and the perseverance to face inevitable failures. The universe may have helped Santiago, but if he hadn't worked diligently at the crystal shop, if he hadn't learned the language of the desert, all the omens would have been meaningless. The book tends to emphasize the magical, spiritual elements while downplaying the mundane, practical effort. Finally, It fails to address the problem of randomness and bad luck. Life is full of unexpected events, a severe illness, an accident, an economic crisis, that can shatter all plans and dreams, no matter how strongly one desires. The idea that every event is part of a grand plan for you can be comforting, but it can also prevent us from accepting the truth that sometimes terrible things happen for no profound reason at all. 2. The passive protagonist and survivor bias. A major narrative and philosophical weakness is the character of the protagonist, Santiago. Although he is the hero of the story, Santiago often appears quite passive. He is not the one who actively forges his own path. Rather, he is largely guided by a series of omens and unbelievably fortunate encounters. Consider his journey. The dream comes to him naturally. King Melchizedek appears at the right moment to give him magical stones and advice. After being robbed of all his money, he happens to find the right job at the crystal shop. He meets the alchemist, who has all the answers, right at the oasis. He falls in love with Fatima at first sight and receives her unconditional support. It seems that at every turn, an external force intervenes to push Santiago in the right direction. He rarely has to struggle to find solutions on his own. This diminishes the power of the message about personal effort and can create an unrealistic hero archetype. This problem is directly related to a common logical fallacy known as survivor bias. Coelho tells the story of one who succeeded. We only hear about Santiago, who followed the omens and found the treasure. But what about the thousands, or millions, of other Santiagos? Those who also had dreams, sold their flocks, followed their omens, but ended up dying of thirst in the desert, being murdered by thieves, or simply never finding anything? The book never mentions them. By focusing only on a single successful case, the work creates an illusion that Santiago's formula is a universal one, guaranteeing success for everyone. This is extremely dangerous, as it can encourage gullible people to make reckless decisions, like quitting a stable job, selling all their assets, based on a vague belief in omens, without thorough preparation in terms of skills, knowledge, and contingency plans. 3. Philosophical gaps and internal contradictions. Upon closer analysis, the philosophy of The Alchemist reveals several contradictions and gaps. The biggest contradiction lies between the concepts of maktub, it is written, and the free will to pursue one's personal legend. If everything is predestined, what is the meaning of Santiago's choices and efforts? If his destiny was to find the treasure, then no matter what he did, he would have gotten there eventually. The book fails to reconcile these two concepts convincingly. It wants to say that we must actively pursue our dreams, while also saying that everything is already ordained. Another debatable point is the view on love and relationships. Fatima, the only significant female character, is portrayed as an idealized figure to the point of being unrealistic. She is a woman of the desert, willing to wait for her beloved to leave and pursue his dream without a single complaint. Love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend. This message, while sounding noble, places the burden of sacrifice and waiting on the woman. It does not mention Fatima's own personal legend, or the possibility of an equal partnership where both build and pursue their dreams together. The model of love in the book is heavily patriarchal and somewhat outdated. Finally, the message about wealth is also ambiguous. Material treasure, gold, jewels, serves as the primary motivation for Santiago's journey. However, the book repeatedly emphasizes that the lessons learned along the way are the real treasure. This ambiguity between material and spiritual treasure makes the ultimate goal unclear. Is the book advocating for material enrichment or spiritual enlightenment? By combining both, Coelho may have pleased many readers, but it also makes the core message lack consistency. 4. Literary limitations, repetition and didacticism. From a purely literary perspective, The Alchemist is not a perfect work. Despite its clear prose, the book suffers from repetition. The core philosophies are repeated many times through the words of different characters, from King Melchizedek to the camel driver to the alchemist. This may serve to emphasize the message, but it also makes the structure monotonous and can make the reader feel like they are being preached at. The characters in the story, with the exception of Santiago, Diego, are often one-dimensional. They feel more like vehicles for the author's philosophy than complex human beings with deep psychological depth. King Melchizedek, the alchemist, Fatima, the crystal merchant, they appear, speak words of wisdom, and then disappear. The dialogue is often didactic, aiming to teach the reader directly rather than letting them draw their own conclusions from the story's events. This diminishes the artistic merit and depth of the work, sometimes making it feel like a self-help manual disguised as a novel. General conclusion: a lighthouse or a desert mirage. So, where should we place The Alchemist on the map of literature and thought? The answer lies in recognizing its dual nature. The Alchemist is an excellent inspirational parable, a powerful catalyst for self-reflection and dreaming. It has undeniably succeeded brilliantly in challenging conventional thinking, asking the right questions, and encouraging millions to think about their life's purpose. For these reasons, it fully deserves to be read and contemplated. However, it is not and should not be considered a detailed blueprint for real life. Its philosophy is too simple, its examples too idealized, and the risks of life are understated. To treat it as a guaranteed formula for success is a dangerous mistake. The wisest approach is to view The Alchemist as the starting point of a journey. It is the book that helps you answer the question, why? Why one must have and pursue a dream. But after closing the book, you have the responsibility to find the answers to how on your own. This requires seeking out other sources of knowledge, more in-depth books, practical courses, experienced mentors, to build a solid foundation of skills and an effective risk management strategy. The legacy of The Alchemist is that it opened up an important public conversation about the meaning of life. It gave ordinary people a new language to talk about their dreams and an optimistic lens through which to view the future. For that, it remains a valuable work, but its value is only fully realized when readers approach it with a critical mind, clearly recognizing both its brilliant flashes of light and its potential mirages on the desert of life. Thank you for listening. Your support means the world to us, so please consider liking this video and subscribing to the GradPro Book channel for more in-depth critiques.